The season has arrived. 27 teams, 14 playoff spots, 1 winner. Last year, we saw Columbus take home the gold as they stomped Seattle 3-0. Complete obliteration. Will there be a new champ crown for 2021? Many teams are bursting onto the scene with new transfers and acquisitions, along with one accusation. Yes, we're talking to you. Teams that sucked last year look decent this year, and vice versa. This video will be the ultimate guide to the MLS 2021 season. Sit back, relax, and enjoy as we will dissect every MLS team. Let's begin.
Atlanta United FC.
Last season was a season to forget for the Five Stripes. Third to last in the East, a Joseph Martinez ACL tear and the sacking of their coach. Basically, everything and anything that could go wrong went wrong. With a new season brings new hope, as their new coach, Gabriel Heights, has brought in a lot of talented players. Sometimes I wonder how Atlanta has all this cap space, but then I remember they have Arthur Blank and Carlos Bocanegra leading the helm at Atlanta United. Truly unfair for the rest of us. On paper, this team looks the strongest it has ever been. The goddamn defense may be the best in the goddamn league, as you have goddamn Miles Robinson and new signing Alan Franco from River Plate holding down the middle. Atlanta always finds a way to acquire talent. Couldn't get Giannetti in the back, so they got someone better in Franco. Jesus. Not only is their defense stacked, but also every other goddamn position on that field. Their midfield most likely consisting of Emerson Hyndman, Marcelino Moreno, and new $5.45 million signing. Santiago Sosa is stacked. Argentinian synergy is running up and down this team. As in the attack, you have the likes of Ezequiel Barco and backup striker Lisandro Lopez from Racing Club, which will add much needed leadership and experience to this relatively young squad. And then having a healthy Joseph Martinez up top is the icing on that cake. We saw how much he means to the squad last year, as they had tremendous difficulty scoring a goddamn goal. This season, scoring a goal should be the least of their worries. I could definitely see Atlanta hoisting the cup once again.
Austin FC.
The 27th expansion club has a lot of hype coming into their inaugural season. A new, beautiful stadium, tremendous numbers of season ticket holders, and a saucy squad. Stoke levels are unreal down in Austin, Texas. First, they raided NYCFC, acquiring the likes of sporting director Claudio Reyna. Next, captain Alexander Ring, and backup goalie brick wall Brad Stuver, formerly known as the Stuver Dam. Then they turned their sights down south and raided Club Guarani in the Paraguayan League, acquiring center back Johan Romana, left winger DP Cecilio Dominguez, and right winger Rodney Redes. The synergy between those three players is gonna be off the chain. Their expansion draft was odd to say the least, but when I look back, oddly effective. They picked up striker Danny Houston from the San Jose Earthquakes, left mid Jared Stroud from the New York Red Bulls, New Jersey, goalkeeper Brady Scott from Nashville, midfielder Joe Corona from the Galaxy, who later declined to join this team, and Kamal Miller, who they later traded to Montreal for some gab. Not the best expansion draft, but where they're lacking, they made up for it in cold, hard transfers. Past wonder boy Diego Fagundes was picked up from the Revs, which is very intriguing of a signing. If he can show his past glimpses of talent, then he's gonna be a good creative attacking option to have. Nick Lima was picked up from the San Jose Earthquakes, which surprised me, as I thought he would be a mainstay in the Quake squad. And now to finally the biggest acquisition in this squad, Tomás Pochettino from Club Atlético Talleres in Argentina. This man is gonna make everything tick in the midfield, and with him in Austin, they now have a chance to turn a couple heads this offseason.
The Chicago Fire.
Ooh, where do I begin with this dumpster fire of a club? Last year they came in 11th in the Eastern Conference with only 5 wins. One of these wins was against Supporter Shield winners, the Philadelphia Union. So the talent is there, but not every week. They are extremely inconsistent squad, with a questionable coach in Raphael Wicki, who I'm still not entirely convinced with. This off-season, they didn't really make too many signings as most of them were made the season prior, as they went through a very big rebuild in 2020, but it just didn't pay off. The signings of Robert Berich, Ignacio Aliceta, and Gaston Jimenez were all fairly decent. It's just that they couldn't really click together. This season, I expect the team to finally gel together, and for the chemistry to raise up a notch. The new 2021 off-season signings of right-winger Ivanov from Levski Sofia and right-back John Espinoza should add much-needed depth to the squad on paper. They don't look all too bad, except in the 10th position. Kronholm and Shuttleworthless wouldn't be starters anywhere else in the league, and that should be a cause for concern if you are a Fire fan, which there's not too many nowadays because they've burned in the dumpster fire.
Club des Foot Montreal.
Horrible name, and I'm expecting an even worse performance from the squad. Last year, they barely made the playoffs, placing 9th. But let's be honest, anyone could have made the playoffs last year. There was a whopping 10 playoff spots out of 14. If you didn't make the playoffs, you were an outlier. Anyways, Montreal didn't play all too good, and you would think that would spark the front office to make some moves, but they barely made any. Center back Struna, left back Kamal Miller, center attacking Min, Georgi Mihailovic, and Jesus Christ, it's St. Bourne Johnson from Ulsan Hyundai were the only ones of note. Also, did I forget to mention the coach Thierry Henry left the team dry and quit, citing family reasons were to blame, but we all know the real reason. This team sucks. Ramel Kyoto is gonna have to keep having fantastic seasons, and Victor Wanyama is gonna have to pay up to his price tag in order for this team to compete. Their defense, midfield, and attack are all mediocre, and mediocrity doesn't win championships. And I don't know how their new coach Wilfred Nancy, formerly assistant coach, is gonna solve the problem that is unreal.
The Colorado Rapids.
Last year, the Rapids shocked everyone and actually played decent. They placed 5th in the Western Conference with the help of COVID, and they played some goddamn attractive soccer. Hell, if they were on Tinder, I would have swiped right. Since appointing their new coach back in 2019, Robin Fraser, this team has took a turn for the better. This team is filled with a lot of young, exciting talent, and their academy could be what is to blame for this upsurge of young dons. Expect Sam Vines, Cole Bassett, Jonathan Lewis, our boy, and Andre Shinashiki to all have big seasons. Their offense looks electrifying with the addition of Michael Barrios from Dallas. Their attack just became that much better. And keep in mind, Barrios is still only 29 years of age. God damn, he has a lot of talent left in those legs. A steal that they picked him up for relatively nothing. Good bit of business. Eunice Namley had an okay first season, but expect him to get much better and way more evolved with this Rapids team. Their defense, as well as their offense, is also quite sturdy. Their partnership of Abubakar and Austin Trusty is elite, and expect Trusty to step up his game tenfold. Wouldn't be surprised if he makes a move after this season. All in all, Colorado looks like a very complete team for the first time in a long time.
The Columbus Crew.
The reigning MLS Cup champs, and the hottest team right now in Major League Soccer. What can't this team not do? First, they're gonna fold. Then, they're gonna barely make the playoffs. Then, they're gonna win the goddamn MLS Cup. And then, they're gonna get their own new soccer-specific stadium. A true hero from zero moment. Lucas Zelarayan, the MLS MVP, is their star player in the middle. The attack goes through him, and he dishes dimes to his teammates each and every goddamn night. Some of his teammates including Pedro Santos, Luis Diaz on the wings, and Zardes up top. The only semi-key player that they lost this offseason was Yunus Mukhtar. But then, they replaced him with someone better, being Kevin Molino. Okay, last season Kevin Molino was a man on fire with the Loons, and was the main reason why they made it to the Western Conference Final. We'll see if his form can transition over to the Crew. I think it will. Other than that, their stupendous attack, their midfield is also stacked with Darlington Nagbe, Artur, and last year's breakout star, Aiden Morris. They're just stacked from top to bottom. Their stronghold defense has remained intact and is one of the best in the league. Columbus has a real chance at going back to back. We'll see if they can pull this one off.
DC United.
It's not looking too bright in DC at the moment. Last year, they came second to last in the Eastern Conference, only beating out FC Cincinnati. Not that much of an accomplishment. Since losing Wayne Rooney and Luciano Acosta 2 years back, this team has never looked the same. They only made 2 off-season moves for the upcoming 2021 season, and they're not all that exciting. 23-year-old striker Roberta from Levski Sofia and Adrian Perez from LAFC. Bland and boring. One thing to be optimistic about, though, is that Ben Olsen finally got the goddamn boot. And in his place is a very exciting coach from Belgium club Berchut, Hernan Lasada, a young up-and-coming coach that could be exactly what this DC United team needs in order for them to make the playoffs. They still have some talented players in the squad, being Kamara up top, Julian Gressel, Edison Flores, Yamil Assad on the flanks, Steve Birnbaum in the back, and Bill Hamid in goal. Lasada just has to find a way for all these talented players to play at their strengths.
FC Cincinnati.
Okay, this team has sucked for the better half of their Major League Soccer career. In 2019, they came in last place and received the wooden spoon, and in 2020, they again came in last place and won the wooden spoon. Don't know if that type of consistency is something to be proud of, despite these horrific years, since he has a lot to look forward to this upcoming season. The new acquisitions of Brenier and Luciano Acosta brings new life to the squad, since he dished out $13 million for Brazilian striker Brenier from Sao Paulo, and he looks to be one of the best strikers in the league this season. And then, when you pair that with Jurgen Locadio, who's on loan from Brighton, that could be the most lethal striker partnership of all time. Cincinnati's offense looks devastating this year. Now, don't forget Kubo has one rocket of a foot. Only weakness I see with Cincy is their goddamn defense. Ugly to say the least. The acquisitions of Ronald Malarita from NYCFC and Gustavo Valencia on loan from SD Aucas will strengthen at least a little bit. Cincinnati's a team that will concede 5 goals, but they may score 6. Expecting entertaining games from them this year.
FC Dallas.
Man, oh man, do I love me some Dallas, and you should too. Last season they placed 5th in the Western Conference, but they were knocked out of the playoffs by the Seattle Sounders. They didn't give up without a fight though. This season I think Dallas will even be better. Their academy keeps spewing out talent left and right at an abnormal rate. Paranormal, you could say. Tanner Tessman, Jesus Ferreira, Ricardo Pepe, and of course, my man, Paxton Pomykal, are all gonna show this season why FC Dallas's academy is the undisputed best in the league.
Where you gonna be, brother, when FC Dallas's academy comes knocking down on your minor league team?
Paxton is packing, and a healthy Paxton is an extremely exciting player to watch, and I have an inclination that he's gonna carry this team far into the playoffs. If he grows back the stash, then they might even win the goddamn cup. Even though they lost Mikel Barrios, their squad is solid, and they don't even have to make too many transfers during this offseason to prove it. The only 2 notable acquisitions were Yader O'Brien, a right winger on loan from Rio Negro Aguias, and Jose Antonio Martinez, a center back from SD Ibar. This squad is extremely underrated. Matt Hedges and Ryan Hollingshead have constantly been 2 of the best defenders in the league, and Andreas Ricarte has the potential to meld into one of the best playmakers in the season.
The Houston Dynamo.
I feel bad for Houston fans. Have to watch an abysmal product on the field, and even worse one off the field with that new badge. Absolutely hideous. Last season, Houston placed last in the West with only 4 wins on the year. Darwin Quintero's phenomenal performance wasn't even enough to save this team from failure, and it looks like they're going to fail once again. They had an active offseason, but most of the players, if not all the players, don't possess true quality. Don't get me wrong, I like the transfers of Tim Parker for the Red Bulls and Joe Corona from Austin. but it's not enough and never will be. Yes. They also acquired USL legend Tyler Pasher and MLS veterans Maxi Urruti and Fafa Pico, which again isn't enough. When you're hoping a USL player can score goals consistently in the MLS, then you know you're screwed. Besides Darwin and Memo Rodriguez, there's not an ounce of creativity in the squad. Memo's gonna have to play like Messi if they want to not come in last. Also, may I add, how the hell is Boniek Garcia still playing? Dude is like 100 years old at this point. Just hang up the goddamn cleats, brah.
Inter Miami.
Now this is a squad that's either gonna dominate or be dominated. Woo. I still can't tell which one yet, but we'll find out soon. Last season they barely made the playoffs, placing 10th, and then got manhandled by Nashville 3-0. A rude awakening for this star-studded team. Subsequently, their coach Diego Alonso was essentially fired and replaced with David Beckham's buddy, Phil Neville. Nepotism? Probably. On paper, this team should be almost any other team in Major League Soccer. Thing is, they're aging, and most on the decline of their career. Matuidi and Gonzalo Higuain are finally gonna have a full season to play, so we'll see if their somewhat lackluster performances were a fluke, or were they legit. Rodolfo Pizarro is gonna have to play like he did on Monterrey, and Lewis Morgan is gonna have to continue playing great. It will be interesting to see how the core gels, with the new signings being Ryan Shawcross from Stoke, Kieran Gibbs from West Brom, former Sounders Jones and Lertam, and Gregor from Club Bahia. Again, on paper this team looks strong, especially that D, with Fagal and LGP as the dual center backs, and Jones, Lertam, and Gibbs as the wing backs. We'll see if they can finally live up to the potential that is this season.
The LA Galaxy.
The Galaxy's fall from grace has been unprecedented. A couple of seasons ago, they were the top dogs. Now they are the bottom pups, and they have been for quite some time. Last season, the absence of Zlatan, you could tell, really hurt them, as they placed 10th in the West and missed out on the playoffs, which is unacceptable if you are an Los Angeles team. Because of this, Barro Chiletto was fired and a new coach took over the helm, Greg Vanny, who has had a fair share of success with Toronto FC, going to the MLS Cup 3 times. Maybe his success will rub off on LA. You know, they did make some interesting signings during the offseason. The French duo winger combo of Grandsir and Cabral looks saucy, as well as the combo of Villafana and Victor Vasquez. If Vasquez is still the goddamn player that he was during Toronto's Cup run, then he'll be a very valuable depth piece. Basically, the whole entire squad will ride or die with Chicharito. If he lays an egg like he did last season, this team is going nowhere. But if he stops and drops a golden egg of a deuce, then the team will thrive. The core is mostly intact too, with Dos Santos and Leggett in the middle, and Stairs and Giancarlo Gonzalez. Not the best core, but it will do. The player I'm looking forward to the most on this squad has got to be Efrain Alvarez. This could be his breakout season and propel him into the limelight. He provides much needed creativity to this old lady of a squad.
LAFC.
Since coming into the league, the black and gold have been nothing short of a powerhouse. Last year they did have a hiccup, placing 7th in the West and getting knocked out by the Seattle Sounders. A minor hiccup, nonetheless. They did almost win the CCL though, and probably would have if Atuesta didn't get a bullshit red card against Club America. I am still salty about that one. This season, they kept the core for the most part. Bought out Jesus Murillo's loan, loaned out Brian Rodriguez to UD Almeria, and acquired Marco Farfan and Corey Baird. Listen, whenever you have a team with Carlos Vela and Diego Rossi, you can do so much damage. It's almost like a cheat code. Pass to Vela on his left foot at a 45-degree angle towards the net. Goal. That simple. Bob Bradley will lead this team to success once again. I have no doubt in my dome. They have tremendous depth, especially in the midfield with Mark Anthony K, Atuesta, Blessing, Cifuentes, Janilla. The list can go on and on. Only point of weakness I see in this team is their goalkeeping situation. Kenneth Vermeer and Pablo Cisnega? Both of you suck. So it's kind of like a lesser of two evils type of situation. even with these horrible tendies, I don't think the ball is gonna be in their half for that long. So I don't think it's gonna even matter who you have in the net.
Minnesota United.
The Loons are rising, and they're rising fast like balloons. They went from the worst team in MLS to one of the best teams in MLS in the span of 4 years. Impressive to say the least. Last year, they showed the league they're a team to be taken seriously, and they placed 4th in the Wild West. They then went on to decimate the Rapids and Sporting Kansas City 3-0 in the playoffs, and would have beat Seattle as well, if not for 3 late goals at the end. This team has shown they are the real deal, and they even got better this upcoming season. They replaced Kevin Molino with an even better striker in Roman Abia from Boca Juniors. They then acquired some left-back depth with Chuka Rataya from Montreal, signed Tim Weah's cousin, Patrick Weah, on a homegrown deal, acquired Nico Hansen from Houston, and traded for Will Trapp in a good deal. Smart moves from the Loons, and you have to remember as well, Ike Opara was out for essentially the whole season. Just imagine what he's capable of. Emmanuel Reynoso was only brought in halfway through the season as well. If both these boys are healthy year-round, this team looks like the team to beat. And then you add in Captain Osvaldo Alonso and Grey Goose in the middle. This team looks scary good. I can go on and on.
Nashville SC.
The Music City impressed all of us, I would like to think. Predicted to not make the playoffs, to making the playoffs and impressing. No shame in losing to Columbus. They did go all the way. This season their squad looks to be more or less the same. Defense looks to be locked down with MLS Defender of the Year, Walker Zimmerman. You know he's on my fantasy team. And they have 2 great wingbacks to complement him in Daniel Lovitz and Alistair Johnston, who bursted onto the scene last year. Their offense looks pretty damn good too, if I am to say so, with Mukhtar, Randalil, and Cadiz leading the line. Mark my words, Mukhtar will have another great season this year and make the leap to being one of the best 10s in the league. They also added some great reinforcements to their squad as well. Right winger Rodrigo Pinheiro was brought in for $1.7 million, and CJ Sapong was added in a free transfer. Good bit of business for Smashville. Smashing. This will add much needed depth to the front line, which was one of Nashville's concerns heading into the scene. Not an issue no more. If their attack can be half as good as their D, they're in for a fun season.
The New England Revolution.
The Revs look to be a major contender this season, a dark horse to win the cup. Last year they went on some run in the playoffs, first beating Montreal in the play-in round, and then shocking everybody by beating Philadelphia in Philly 2-0. They followed this game by another shocker of a result, beating Orlando 3-1 on the road, and then eventually succumbed to Columbus, just like Nashville did. Again, no shame in losing to the eventual champions. This offseason they didn't lose any key players and added a few that will surely add talent to this already talented squad. Center mid Wilfred Captum was brought in on a free and seems like a reliable player to have in the middle. He last played with Real Betis, not a bad club to have on your resume. They also brought in some wing depth with AIT, the Swedish fish, from the Swedish Giants Malmo. The 2 players that will be most vital to the squad going forward are Gustavo Bo and Carls Hill. When you have these players on the pitch at the same time, except a goal or 2, or maybe even 3. One of the most deadly partnerships in the whole entire league. Also, expect Matt Turner to continue playing solid, one of the best shot stoppers in the league.
NYCFC.
NYCFC is going through a somewhat baby powder blue period right now. They let a lot of people go, and didn't really add too many to replace them. Last season, NYCFC placed 5th and didn't play all too well. You would think this would be a wake-up call to make some monumental signings, but guess what? It wasn't enough. They first sent one of their best wingers, Alexandru Matrița, on loan to Saudi Arabia, then offloaded their captain, Alexander Ring, and then the icing on the cake was selling their starting left back, Ronald Matarrita, to FC Cincy. Sorry, I got a little choked up there. After all, I do bleed powdered blue. New York is blue, baby! And to make matters worse, the replacements for these positions aren't all too convincing. They replaced Matarrita with Danish left back Amundsen, and sort of replaced Alexander Ring with Alfredo Morales. TBH, the Alexander Ring trade wasn't as devastating as many people made it out to be. James Sands is arguably better and will fill that position quite nicely. My main concern with the boys in blue is their attack. I just don't see where the goals will be coming from, especially in the beginning of the season, as Habar will still be injured and won't be back for a month or two most likely. Castellanos, Tajori Shradi, and especially Jesus Medina are all gonna have to step it up if we want to see the back of the net. The day of making this video, NYCFC at least added one more player in the attack, being Thiago Andrade from Brazil for a reported fee of $1.8 million. We'll see if CFG's scouting pays off for this young promising prospect. We sure hope so. Once again, it's blue, baby.
The New York Red Bulls.
Moving on to NYCFC's rivals, the New Jersey Red Bulls. Last season, they placed right behind NYCFC and crapped out of the playoffs in true Metro fashion. This year, honestly, looks to be no different for the Bulls. They're gonna have to rely on their young guns heavily if they want to make a case for themselves. Caden Clark is the man to watch this season, and he's most likely gonna have to carry the squad to victory. Last season, he showed glimpses of talent, and I know many USMNT fans will be turning into New York Red Bulls games just to see this young man play. Also, Christian Cáceres and rumored signing Frankie Amaya from FC Cincinnati are gonna have to hold down the midfield like their life depends on it. Expect Brian White to bang in a fair amount of goals, as he is now the main man up top. And now, this brings us to the main man in the back, Aaron Long. Aaron is the perfect combination of strength and speed. It's very hard to get past him. If he stays healthy, then the Rebels will have a chance. But if he pulls up with an injury, their season is basically over and out. Some new signings that the Bulls made were acquiring center back Andre Reyes from Atlético Nacional, right back Tom Edwards on loan from Stoke, and center mid Yuba Diarra on loan from Red Bull Salzburg. Again, none of these signings are earth-shattering, and it's a shame too, cause Red Bull has the resources and money to buy world-class talent, but yet they opt to sign no names season after season. Join us this season as we watch new coach Gerard Struber enter his wackiest adventure yet, fixing the New Jersey Red Bulls.
Orlando City SC.
Didn't make the playoffs since like 4 of the past 5 seasons.
Now all of a sudden they got a new coach in Oscar Pereira and become one of the best teams in the league. Last season they made it to the final of the MLS's back tournament, placed 4th in the league, and made it quite far in the playoffs. They were a new and improved team, barely recognizable from their past years, almost like Caitlyn Jenner. This season they can prove once and for all they're not a team to be taken lightly. Their lineup is sprinkled with young American talent and South American flair. Their captain, Nani, has been nothing short of a miracle since coming into the squad. Their offense looks exciting with Chris Mueller, Mauricio Pereira, and Daryl Dike if he stays. And then when you add the new attacking options of left winger Alexander Alvaro from SD Aucas and Alexander frickin' Pato, they look scary. If frickin' Pato can channel his inner past self, then this team may finally win some silverware. Their defense is also very much intact, with the stabilizing forces of Antonio Carlos and Robin Hansen. And to top off, they have, in my opinion, the best goalie in the league, Pedro Halasi. The Octopus is what they call him, and for good reason. Orlando finally have the team that they deserve.
The Philadelphia Union.
Last season, they were arguably the best, won the Supporters' Shield by a hefty amount,
Hefty.
and played some very attractive football. Despite their amazing 2020, this season I didn't see things going the same way. The outgoing transfers of center back Mark McKenzie and creator Brendan Aronson are going to hurt the club a lot. So much so that I wouldn't be surprised if this team doesn't make the playoffs this year. Those are 2 of your best players gone with the wind, and no one to really replace them. Anthony Fontana is gonna have to raise his game tenfold to even come close to reaching Brendan Aronson's levels. And Jack Elliott and Jacob Glesnes are gonna have to play lights out in Mark McKenzie's absence. You know, Philly did make a good amount of offseason signings, but they were basically all homegrowns. The one that has caught my eyes the most is Paxton Aronson, and if you couldn't already guess it, that's Brendan's little brother. Talk has come out of Philly that he could even be better than his brother, and I expect him to see some minutes by the end of this season. Jamiro Montero has to play fantastic once again, and Alejandro Bedoya is gonna have to continue leading this team. Last thing to note is that their season is going to be much more condensed than others due to the CCL, and I don't see that much depth to rotate. Could be a problem for them in 2021.
The Portland Timbers.
The Timbers looked great this year, but when don't the Timbers look great? Last season they won the MLS's back tournament against Orlando and placed third in the West, just barely edging out to Minnesota. In the playoffs they did unfortunately choke to FC Dallas, but hey, shit happens. Learn and move on. They kept their core this year and added some new improvements. 2 upgraded wingbacks were added to the squad, being Claudio Bravo from Bainfield and Jose Carlos Van Rieken on loan from Chivas. Now, those are 2 blockbuster signings that will surely strengthen that back line. And the back line isn't even the strongest part about this squad. Their offense may be the best in the league. So much skill depth is littered throughout this team. Diego Valeri is getting older, I know that, but that's not even a big deal, when Sebastian Blanco can slide into the middle with ease. Portland has arguably the best striker combo in the league as well, with Nisgoda and Felipe Mora, who was officially brought from his loan spell. They also have the best brotherly combo as well, with Diego Chara and Yemi Chara. If Portland were to win another cup, now would be the perfect time. Their veterans are still kicking, and their young players, including Abobasi and Andy Pollo, are essentially in their goddamn primes.
Real Salt Lake.
Ay. This squad just does not look good, and they didn't make nearly the amount of signings that they had to in order to get above the red line. Last season, they placed second to last in the West, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did even worse in 2021. Shots fired, we know. The only notable signings they made were that of Anderson Julio, a right winger from Atlético San Luis, Bobby Wood, a washed-up striker from Hamburg, and Rubio Rubin, a has-been from San Diego Loyal SC. None of these signings are enough to fix the problem that is Real Salt Lake. Feel bad for Rusnak, who has to carry this team game in and game out. The only shred of hope I see is if David Ochoa can play phenomenal again with this team, as he did with the U23s. He's gonna have to stand on his goddamn head if RSL doesn't want to concede double-digit goals every single goddamn night. Their defense is leaky, with Justin Glad, Donny Toya, and Aaron Herrera being the lockdown starters in the back, and their offense is stale. Can't see this team going far at all. Maybe their academy, with their relatively new training facilities, can whip out some high-quality players fast. If not, this is going to be a long season.
The San Jose Earthquakes.
Matias Almeida needs to work his magic this season. Since he's became coach, the San Jose Earthquakes have looked mostly disappointing. Last year, they barely sneaked into the playoffs, placing 8th. But then had to face Tim Melia in the playoffs, and we all know how that went. Not one San Jose player could score against him. Embarrassed. They made some new signings this season with Eric Ramiri in the middle and Javier Lopez on loan from Chivas. 2 good players, but I don't think good enough to save this team. Vaco GTFO'd during the offseason to Japanese club Ulsan Hyundai, and Magnus Eriksson left halfway through of last season. These are 2 decent players that weren't replaced sufficiently. Christian Espinoza is now the lead man up front on the wings, and San Jose is gonna have to rely on him heavily if they're gonna see any goals. As far as their backline goes, it looks alright. Oswaldo Alaniz and Florian Jungwirth in the center, and Marcos Lopez and Tommy Thompson on the left and right. One thing that Almeida is world-class at is making do with what he's got. Playing Tommy as a right back and Florian Jungwirth as a center back wasn't genius. And we'll see if his out-of-the-box thinking pays off this time around, boys.
The Seattle Sounders.
The reigning MLS Cup runners-up were quite quiet during this winter transfer window. Maybe they have signings lined up for the summer. I don't know. But they shouldn't be as confident as they seemingly are. The trident of Rui Diaz, Loderio, and Jordan Morris is tainted, as Jordan will be out for the foreseeable future with an ACL tear that he sustained at Swansea. Looking back, he should have not been loaned. Staying in Seattle with his dog was the best decision that he could have ever made. The only 2 signings of note were Kellen Rowe from New England and Freddie Montero from Vancouver. Both are not the same players that they used to be. You could say washed and you wouldn't be wrong. Yes, their team is still alright, but you're running on thin ice. One more injury to another one of your top guys, and you can kiss your season goodbye. Nuhu, Brad Smith, Orega, and especially Amar have to come up huge in the back. Their offense spearheaded by Ladero must be on their game as well. João Paulo has to start living up to his DP price tag, and Christian Roldan in behind has to be a rock in the middle. If I'm being honest, this looks like one of the weakest Seattle Sounders teams of the years past. Maybe my standards are too high, but I would have wished to see a tad bit more activity in the offseason.
Sporting Kansas City.
SKC played great last season, coming in first in the Western Conference. Even though they got slapped around by Minnesota in the playoffs, you could still sum up their season as decent. Like Seattle, they didn't really make too many signings during the window. They acquired Izzy Myron on a free from Besiktas to add backline depth, and added Remy Walter, who formerly played for Malatyaspor. They also bought Gotti kinda's loan, so he's kinda officially an SKC player. An extremely smart move, as he was one of Sporting's best players last year. Alan Polito and Johnny Russell will be huge going forward, with kinda right in between, controlling the tempo of this game. Busio will also be a key player to watch in this squad. Since changing positions to a more deep-lying midfielder, he has revolutionized his game. So much so that FC Barcelona were linked to him not too long ago. Their offense and midfield are up there with the goddamn best, but their defense could use some work. Matt Beasler was traded to expansion club Austin FC, and Winston Reed was recalled from his loan. Now that leaves Puncic, Fontes, and Izzy Myron to hold responsibility in the middle of the D. Not the strongest CBs to have at your disposal. Thank God they have Tim Melia between the pipes behind them, as I think he'll be again a crucial part to this team.
Toronto FC.
They are the boys up north, and they look like they will be having another solid season once again. Last year they placed second in the East, but shockingly lost to Nashville in the playoffs. May have been a one-off. Who knows? Coming into the season, they look almost identical, except one of their best players, Pablo Piatti, was sold to LGCF, a pretty big blow. But I think even with this absence, they're still gonna be a good team. Starting back to front, their defense looks to be one of the best once again. A backline of Richie Larea, Chris Mavinga, Omar Gonzalez, and Aro is just too good to bet against. Their midfield with the washed-up Michael Bradley and Jonathan Osorio is enough to get the job done, and their attack is truly something to behold. Reigning MLS MVP Alejandro Pozuelo will be leading the attack, and he'll have the option of assisting either Ayo Akinola or Josie Altidore if he somehow stays healthy. Only position of weakness is wingers now that Piatti is gone, but I have confidence that they'll find a formation that'll suit to this team's strengths. And did I forget to mention, they have a new coach, Chris Armas, which brings a new element to the equation. Filling Greg Vanny's shoes is gonna be hard, but not impossible. Chris could be the guy to do so.
The Vancouver Whitecaps.
Almost forgot to mention this team. They're just that forgettable. Sorry. Last season they placed 9th in the West and missed the playoffs. By Vancouver standards, this has to be considered a good season, but objectively it was not. When looking at their roster, it just gives me one big migraine. One of their most young, promising players, Wangenbaum, jumped ship halfway through the season, leaving this team with almost no hope to grasp onto. Some signings were brought in, being center back Veselinovic from Serbia, right back Bruno Gasper from Sporting, and center mid-cow Alexandra from Botafogo. Now all three of these players have to acclimate to the team quickly, as most likely they'll be starters come season opener. Putting a lot of faith in these three players to all perform, too much faith if you ask me. The trident of Caicedo, Dajom on the wings, and Lucas Cavallini up top has to be lethal and stay healthy, as the depth on this team is non-existent. Ali Adnan can't be the only player that produces goals on this team, and he's a wingback. Lucas Cavallini has got to step it up, or else it's game over. Well, if you enjoyed this, well, what are you doing here?
Well, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content just like this has been the Ultimate Guide. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more, brother. What you gonna do when Bench King Mania goes wild on you with Bench Week, baby? We'll see you next time.